Welcome to the High Vibe Soul Podcast, a space where we discuss personal growth, spirituality, motherhood, relationships, and shifting old paradigms so that you can live your most authentic soul-aligned life. I'm your host, Lindsay, and I founded the High Vibe Soul Company to empower women and support them in becoming their highest, brightest selves. From my light to yours, I am so grateful you're here. Hello, friends. Welcome back to the podcast. Today's episode is a deep dive into the 2026 collective astrology. I don't know about you, but this year has been an intense roller coaster. I honestly went into this year like a little bit cocky, for lack of a better word, because I'm like, okay, it's a 9-year collectively, but I have shed and let go and released and transformed so much over these 9 years. Surely this isn't going to hit me that hard. Yeah, no. It's crazy. Like even in November and really even this month, there's still been so much shedding and releasing and these realizations of nope, this is not aligned. This pattern, this way of being, this way of doing in relationships, it can't come with me going forward. It's been a wild year. It's been really intense for my clients as well. Let me know in the comments how it's been for you. But I'm so excited for this new energy, this 1 year that we're moving into. I'll talk more about the energy of the new year. I'll probably do like a year ahead reading with a January energy update. So stay tuned for that. But right now, this episode, we're going to focus all about the 2026 astrology because astrology is not my wheelhouse whatsoever. I'm an energy reader. I love numerology. I love human design. Astrology does not come naturally to me. I really struggle to understand the nuances of astrology. And so I'm so excited. I have my friend Chelsea Jewell on the podcast today. She's an intuitive astrologer. She is a spiritual coach. She's also an energy healer, and she's just a beautiful gem of a human. She's just so real. Her energy is so lovely and so soothing and calming. I met Chelsea because my friend, I was her client, and then she was my client, and then we became friends. She started hosting these new moon ceremonies in her photography loft, and they've been just so magical. And it's incredible. The women that show up, everyone just shows up with no masks, like completely authentic. People are crying often, and it's just like a really beautiful communion among women. And so that's how I met Chelsea. Chelsea is the astrologer that kind of talks about the energy of each new moon. And it's really helped me understand astrology on a deeper level. So I'm so excited to have her on the podcast. We're going to talk all about the collective year ahead, what's in store for us. I think you'll be really excited. You might be a little surprised by some of the things that are coming. And I'm really interested to see how this will coincide when I do the energy reading for 2026 and see where it kind of like matches up, what might really hit for you or me. Also, I want to let you know that Chelsea is offering for just $44 an even deeper dive into the 2026 astrology. If you feel like you get a taste here and you want to know more of the nuances month by month, that'll be linked in the show notes. And I also want to let you know, Chelsea has one of the coolest offers I've ever heard of. I think there might be a few spots left, so jump on this if you want it. But basically, she's going to give you your whole 2026 year ahead personalized astrology reading. And it's going to give you all of your major transits, your personalized monthly themes, your energy summaries. And then as part of this, you're going to get a personalized roadmap quarter by quarter. She's going to send you a reading for each of those so that you can really work consciously with your transits and just make choices that are in alignment with your chart. So I will link that in the show notes as well. And let's get into the 2026 astrology forecast with Chelsea Jewell. Just want to start by asking you how you even got into astrology and spiritual coaching, because it's funny, we've connected on this deep, very intimate level in your new moon ceremonies, and I've
Mhm.
never even asked you. So
Yeah,
you
I
share whatever you feel called to share here.
well, I kind of stumbled into astrology and this whole field by accident and by necessity. So I used to work in corporate marketing. The catalyst for my own spiritual awakening was my simultaneous dream job and like a very toxic workplace when I worked at Coca-Cola. And I had this experience where I basically just like had a big ego death and was sent to like question all of the things that I had considered to be my worth, like my achievement, my hard work, like exceeding everyone's expectations, but it was all like externally focused. And when that stopped working for me in a lot of ways, I was like, who am I? What do I do? Like, what am I here for? Um, that job was also kind of, it felt like the pinnacle of my marketing career. So I was also like, what am I doing with the rest of my life? And I was looking for astrologers, psychics, healers, intuitives, like all of these things to basically help me and to basically tell me who I am, what I was here for, if I was actually a good person or if I was what all these other people were saying I was. And astrology, out of like all of the modalities I tried and tested, I just had like a very deep resonance with. And I took a course on astrology to learn it because I was like, I don't want to have to pay someone every time to tell me something with some intuitive wisdom. And it was one of those things that just came very, like, there's a lot of information in astrology, but it came very naturally to me. Like, it was like relearning a language. And I ended up, yeah, just kind of starting my business by accident just because I ended up really resonating with astrology. I kind of thought back in 2020, oh, I'll become a life coach and be kind of legitimate and I'll hide all the woo-woo parts of the intuitive reading that I was taking courses in astrology. I'll just kind of sneak that in, but not have to like come fully out of the spiritual closet. I realized that those were actually the things I was really into and really good at. My business, the universe was like, no, actually, this is your thing. And I've just kind of been trying to follow it and listen to those pieces ever since of like what really resonates with me and what tends to actually help people the most.
That's amazing. I love that. And I feel like anyone who considers themselves deeply spiritual can resonate with your story, because there is this coming out of this spiritual closet at a certain point. I know I went through this where I was like, are people going to think I'm weird? Will I be accepted by the moms at my children's school if I'm
Mm-hmm.
telling them I'm healing with angels, you know? And then at a certain point, you're like, I don't care anymore. And
Mm-hmm.
this is who I am, take it or leave it. And then I feel like the more you end up talking about it with people, it's like you see these little light bulbs going off, and
Totally.
they're actually super interested in it for the most part.
Yeah. Yeah, I've found that. And it actually has become, as my security in myself and my spirituality has grown and deepened, um, it actually helps me discern a lot about a person, not in a judgmental way. I have found more of my people by just being honest about what I'm into and what helps me and what I like. And I can tell when I share with people what I do based on their reaction, how open or not they are to that. And that's just information for me to take of like how deep of a connection I can have that I want to have with them. It's funny because like a lot of people, if they're not really open to it, I don't get a ton of judgment from it anymore. It kind of like seems to go in one ear, out the other with some people.
Yeah. Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. They're like, move on to the next
Yeah.
subject.
They're like, I
Yeah.
cannot understand or relate. So, anyways.
I remember having such a hard time initially when I was going through, there's so many levels of like the spiritual awakening, but going through my last really big one. And I was like, I want to find my spiritual people. Where are they? Maybe we just need to move. Maybe this area just doesn't have that. And it was like, no, you have to be more open and you have to speak about it to
Mm.
call those people in. And now I feel like I meet spiritual people, you know, checking out at Target. The person at the cash register will be
Yeah.
talking about, you know, manifestation. I actually just gave that message to a client where she was like, I feel like I have my old friends, but I really want this like new community that I'm calling in, and my old friends don't understand. And I'm like, well, are you talking about it?
Hmm.
Are you telling people what you're interested in? Are you going to these classes that you're curious about? Like, what are you doing to
Yeah.
call them in? Or are you just thinking about it in your house?
Hmm. It's such a vital and scary stage to move through. Um, but yeah, it's so true.
Oh, I love that. And now you get to be a spiritual life coach, which I think is, it fits you so perfectly.
Oh, thank you.
So, before we dive into next year's astrology, I was just writing down a few notes before this. I want you to help us understand how the astrology energy is kind of played out this year, because
Yeah.
this has been a really intense year. I'm very into numerology. It's a 9 year. Nines are all about releasing, letting go, clearing, renewal, making space for the 1 year next year. But
Yeah.
how does astrology tie into all this? What were like the biggest themes that you saw? Because it's been an absolute roller coaster for
Oh, totally.
most of my friends and all
Yeah.
of my clients. It's like 1 month is incredible, and the next month you're just on the floor crying out all your feels.
Totally. It's been like that for me too. And I love this question because actually, like, one of the first places I wanted to start, I can't fully understand 2026, I think, without the context that we've been in 2025. Zooming out a little bit, astrology is the study of cycles of time. One of the ways I think about it is kind of like a nesting doll series of cycles of time. We have some planets like Mercury and Venus that move more quickly because they're closer to the sun, that form smaller circles. And then planets that are farther from the sun, like Pluto, bigger arcs of cycles. So, one thing I would say about 2025 is that one of the themes I put to it and feels especially true now is 2025 was kind of like beta testing the future, where it's like we started to get some glimpses and glimmers of some of the new that is coming in and that we are birthing and will be birthing more and creating. And also, there's been this huge theme of like simultaneous death and rebirth and almost like a tug of war between the old and the new, like the old paradigm and the new paradigm. And in 2025, the astrology was always set to like be kind of an even battle, if you will. I don't really like using that word because it makes it sound very like adversarial, but I think it's often felt that way for a lot of us in 2025, where it's felt like this tug of war, push and pull between old patterns in ourselves and in our individual lives, but we can also see it collectively play out. Like a lot of the bigger systems, I mean, governmental, institutional, but also just like the ways that we've structured reality through the understandings of patriarchy and capitalism and colonialism are starting to crumble. And like the new on the other side is not fully set up. Many of us have gotten glimpses of what the new could be, maybe collectively, but also just in our personal lives of like new ways we want to parent, new ways we want to like relate to ourselves and others. And so in 2025, one of the most significant things we had astrologically were almost all of the outer planets started to change signs. So at the end of 2024, Pluto moved into Aquarius, and it's there for good for the next 20 or so years. But then we had Uranus, Neptune, and Saturn in 2025 start to move into new signs. And these are the planets that are farthest away from the sun. So I really want to stress how significant it is anytime one of these faraway planets changes signs, because it only happens every, depending on the planet, 7, 10, 20 years. For all of them to do it in the same year is unheard of. So there was a lot of change we were metabolizing this year. And again, we were getting glimpses, especially during the summer, was when almost all of those outer planets were starting to go into new signs. However, starting in September and through now, those outer planets, specifically Uranus, Neptune, and Saturn, all retrograded back into the previous sign that they were in. So right now, at the end of the year, we're going back into this period of recalibration. When I say beta testing, like I used to work for a tech company and we would put out a new version of the technology and then beta test it, notice all of the bugs and glitches, and then kind of go back to the drawing board to fix and work them so we could release the full version later. That's kind of what we're in now. And then in the spring, like February to April of 2026 is when those planets will move forward again into their new signs for good. So 2025 was a lot about like the beta testing, getting to test out and experiment with some of these glimpses and hopes and visions and desires for whatever new thing we're creating, again, collectively, but also in our personal lives. And then we were always meant to, towards the end of this year in 2025, go back to the drawing board. I think for a lot of us, it can be easy to feel defeated by it, of like, oh, I thought I already worked through this pattern. I thought I already like healed this and cleared this, and I thought I was done. And part of why I share this is to like validate that feeling. And it's not just that if you're feeling that way, you've done something wrong. There's valuable information that we've all gotten that we're meant to be working through and integrating so that in 2026 we can have more things addressed on an internal level to move forward.
And there's always a new layer to be healed.
Yeah.
So that's very, very normal. So that's interesting. So really February is when all the movement starts. So is everything still kind of in retrograde through January?
Either
Or is
in,
there like a little forward movement in January as well?
yeah, there's a little bit of forward movement. All of these, the three main outer planets that are doing this back and forth, Uranus, Neptune, and Saturn, um, will station direct at various times. But as they station direct, they'll still have those final degrees of the sign that they've been in for the past decade or so to move through. So even when there's forward movement, like in December, January, early February, it may still feel like moving forward through old territory that we've thought we've covered already, if that makes sense.
It does, yeah. So what do you think are the big themes for 2026 overall?
Well, let's see. I think I have a couple written down. One of the biggest ones, I would kind of continue going on this trajectory of like, I'm calling it reality wars. And again, that's a little bit, I don't always love using like the battle war language, but that is kind of what it is. We've been in these kind of reality wars where it's been kind of like old paradigm power hierarchy structures versus new paradigm of power to the people. I think as we move forward, we're just going to move into a little bit of a different version of reality wars. It almost feels like now two new versions versus each other. So there's the technology first version, which we can see with like AI taking over everything, more control, more human domination with technology, kind of more of that. And I'm not trying to say that technology is bad, but when it's like technology first, there's a certain synthetic robotic feeling to life versus a different new, not to the exclusion of technology, but more of like a nature first, where we're letting nature lead and show us like how to live properly, including our human nature. Community is very important in that, getting time outside. I think the big difference I want to posit between these two versions is, again, if you think of reality not as like binary things of technology versus nature, but like what is the bigger nesting doll that's holding everything? For me, I want to choose and live my life with nature being the ultimate holder as opposed to technology.
Yeah, it's sort of like the soft life movement, like
Yeah,
the
totally.
slow living movement versus the people that just want more and more and more, faster, 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 and neither is better or worse. It's just what do you want?
Yeah.
I'm with you. I just had that conversation actually with a neighbor where she was like, "Oh my gosh, what is it going to be like when our kids are our age? They're going to just have robots doing everything and they're not even going to be thinking for themselves." And I said, "Well, no. Yeah, I think robots will be a huge thing, but that's not what I'm teaching my kids. I'm teaching my kids now more than ever the power of discernment and
Yes.
trusting their intuition and leaning into their inner guidance before going to, say, Chat GPT to
Yeah.
get information. So I feel like there is such a there's some fear around it for sure that I'm
Hmm.
sensing from the collective, but it'll be interesting to see which way people kind of go. And I'm sure there's some middle ground as well. It's never black and white. But yeah, we're very much on that like soft life, slow living movement.
Yeah.
Somebody said to me the other day, "When are you getting your chickens?" Because we're growing a garden now, and I do kind of want chickens, but I don't actually want to take care of them. But I get fresh eggs from a farmer down the road, and
Hmm.
I love all that. And I actually love my neighborhood, but I could really see us living on more land, like further out, just even more peace and quiet.
Yeah. Yeah. You just brought up two really important things that I would also consider to be like major themes or maybe like major skills for not just 2026, but definitely rooting into 2026 and beyond. One is the slow living, but it's also just like going with your natural pace because we currently have Pluto in Aquarius, which is an air sign. Air signs tend to move really quickly. And then in April of 2026, we'll have Uranus moving into Gemini for the next 6 years. So, with two very strong outer planets in quick moving air signs, I do think that the pace of modern life is going to continue to quicken. One of the maybe fears, but also like intentions that I have is to not let myself be overtaken by someone else's pace or the kind of momentum and pace of modern digital life, but to really be intentionally rooted in the pace of my body and what I want. In some ways, I think the pace of the world will quicken, and that means it's going to be more important for more of us to be rooted in whether you call it slowness or just intentionality. So there's that. And the other thing you mentioned, if you're teaching your kids to like trust themselves and listen to themselves and have discernment, I'm actually calling that one of the new energetic currencies of the new paradigm is discernment and embodiment, like being in touch with your body, because there is so much change and there is a lot of fear in that naturally. And I think that's being generated by people in power. I think one of the things we have to really keep in mind is not bypassing our fear and not just like shoving it to the side. There's validity to the fear and not letting ourselves be overtaken by it so that we give our power away to people in power, spiritual leaders and gurus, even to AI. Like there are all of these things and people that would be very easy. And in some ways, like there's an appeal to giving our power away, right? When like there's so much change and we're scared of making the wrong choice, it can be very appealing to be like, I don't want this responsibility. You just like call the shots for me. And like that's not ultimately fulfilling. It it doesn't seem like the answer to me.
Yeah, but a lot of people like that because it's just easier.
Mm-hmm.
It's easier than slowing down, disconnecting from all the media, the social media, all the things, and really tuning into their heart and their soul.
Yeah.
That takes time. It actually takes practice, and not everyone wants to do it. So it will be interesting for anyone that's like, I don't know what Pluto and Aquarius and Uranus and Gemini mean. Those are two big, big technology areas, but can you kind of like dive into that?
Yeah. And even before I go to the technology, what's important to know about Uranus and Pluto and even like Neptune and Saturn, because they're so far away from the sun, those planets, and they move more slowly, we consider those to be societal collective planets, which means their movements have very broad stroke impacts, not just for us individually, but really like on a societal collective level. They kind of help define eras in history. And so again, when they move and change signs, the change isn't felt on a day. It's kind of more broadly felt across time. You mentioned both of those planets, Pluto now being in Aquarius and Uranus moving into Gemini. Because Aquarius and Gemini are both air signs, they include communication, technology, media, innovation, our social structures and communities and groups. Those are kind of things that are all being impacted. Pluto is all about death rebirth, transformation, and Uranus is about like revolution, change. There's this heavy, strong energy of change, transformation, dying and rebirthing systems of communication and socializing, technology, media. And whenever that happens, when there's a lot of change all at once, there's a lot of narratives, stories, power up for grabs. And that's again where it's important for us to be really discerning in our individual lives of what we are choosing to put the power of our belief in, the power of our authority to make decisions for our lives. There are so many impacts, our daily choices, all the way up to like what that ends up looking like on a societal level.
Oh, that makes sense. So those are themes for the next 6 years, you said? 3 to 6 years, something like that?
Yeah, Uranus will be in Gemini for the next 6 years,
Okay.
and then Pluto will be in Aquarius for the next 20 years. So it's again kind of like cycles within cycles. 2025 was kind of almost a false start where it's like, oh, we're getting ready to go. Nope, we got to reset at the starting line. And then 2026 is where it's like, okay, off to the races.
Got it. That makes so much sense. What themes do you see specific to just 2026? Like if you, to put you on the spot, if you had to pick maybe 3, 4, 5 themes where you're like, this is how 2026 is likely going to feel based on the energy, what would you say?
One of the key words I would use is momentum. And again, I think that will be momentum in multiple directions. So it's not just, so it really depends on what we're giving our energy to that will be able to channel this momentum towards. I would say sovereignty, which is kind of what we've been talking about, like cultivating self trust, inner authority, discernment. Authenticity is a really big theme as well. We'll have the North Node moving into Aquarius towards the middle of the year. The North Node determines where the eclipses happen. So that's starting a new like 2.5 year period where we're really moving towards authenticity, but also the word I would use is individuation, where we are not just focusing on our individual desires, wants, pleasures, kind of in a selfish way, but we're really trying to grow into who we are meant to be at a soul level, even when that bucks against convention, our conditioning, our families, our communities. So there's, I think, going to be a lot of push and pull within us as well between this is who I really am. Do I feel safe enough to embody that and like let that out into the world?
That's exciting. I love to hear that. As a manifestor in human design, that's like speaking my language. I wonder how many people will kind of wake up and be like, wow, I've really been conforming, or I've always just gone along with this. And now all of a sudden, why am I feeling this way? It'll be really interesting to see how that plays out in the collective. But that's exciting to me. And that's exciting for me as a mom because
Yeah.
my kids get to grow up with that for a period. It'd be
Yeah.
really, really good for them. What other transits and themes do you see for 2026 that you feel like are important to highlight?
There are a couple points in the year that really stand out to me. One is on February 20th. We've been building up to this transit for a while. The energy's been building up to this, the Saturn Neptune conjunction, and it's taking place at 0 degrees of Aries, which Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, and 0 degrees is the very first degree of the whole 360-degree wheels. We call it the Aries point or the 0 point. So, for a major conjunction between two outer planets to be taking place, it feels like a massive, massive symbol of rebirth, new initiations and transitions. And for a little bit of context, Saturn is the planet of like structure, boundaries, traditions, and Neptune is the planet of dissolution, spirit. When these two planets come together, they're pretty opposite. It's like structure and form versus formlessness and spirit. And one of the last times these two planets came together was in 1989 when the Berlin Wall fell. And I think that's such a symbolic representation of these two planets together is this symbol of separation and like a wall that no one thought would ever come down, all of a sudden came down. I think there's a lot of potential for different metaphorical, maybe literal walls, overly rigid boundaries, even within ourselves to become more flexible or come down. That's a really significant transit in February.
Love to hear that one. I was just thinking how I like to look at things almost by quarter. Like
Hmm.
I'll do my year ahead reading and I'll do it quarterly and see how it
Yeah.
plays out. Could you give us like a quarter by quarter?
Yeah, actually, I am working on that. I'm gonna do a little, like an even more in-depth video that I'll put on my website, or it'll be broken down by quarters. So a little teaser for anyone who wants to go into more depth. Okay, I'm big on metaphors if you can't tell. So let me maybe put these quarters into the context of an overarching metaphor. Q1 feels like, and especially with that February moment of the conjunction between Saturn and Neptune at 0 degrees of Aries, feels like the water breaking in like an actual birth situation. Like I think we've been in contractions of expansion, contraction, pain, relief. One is like the water breaking, and we're like, okay, we're about to go into labor. Q2 and the summer, and specifically July, is a month that a lot of transits and aspects between planets take place in. Also, let me just make a little disclaimer with that. That doesn't necessarily mean that something major will happen in July, but that's kind of like a peaking point of energy. So we may see things happen on either side of that, like a month or two after. The Q2 and summer is more like the push, where it's like there's no going back, right? Q3 could be like an elongated push for a while.
Okay. But you feel like a lot of momentum for the second half of the year.
Yes, a lot of momentum. And again, it's all about choice and discernment for us individually about where we are placing that energy and momentum. Are we placing it towards defending against or buying into old stories or the new kind of autocratic stories? Or are we putting it towards what we actually want to see and what we want to birth?
That's something I talked about in my event this month, actually, was how your focus and your attention is your most precious commodity. And people don't realize this. And they're just scattering their energy everywhere. And look, like we all do it at different times, but it's so important to focus your intention. And also, even just thinking about like, how are you spending your money? What are you spending your money on?
Yeah,
That is you placing a focus somewhere and saying, this is what I believe in. So maybe just doing a little audit on things like that, piggybacking on what you said, it feels like that's going to be an indefinite theme for us.
totally. Right now, like when this podcast comes out, still at the end of the year, this is a really good time to begin those audits and begin rewiring some of those patterns so that we can direct them with the flow of momentum in 2026. And that's not to say you can't start in 2026 to redirect your attention and your money, even. But those are really good points. There are new forms of currency that we aren't realizing. And it's not just money, but our attention, our discernment, the choices we're making, not just the actual money, but like where are we choosing to spend it and put it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that completely. Do you feel like there are any specific opportunities for 2026 that you want to highlight for the listeners to get them really
Yeah, I
excited?
yeah, we have the opportunity to build capacity within ourselves to hold multiple truths at once. All of the things we're talking about, there's a part of me that feels concern and fear over them. And there's a part of me that feels empowered and excited by them. Like, I think that is one of the paradoxes that we're faced with of sovereignty. It can be scary to realize how much power we do have over our lives because it comes with a lot of responsibility. I think there's a lot of internalized shame that goes into a lot of new age spiritual beliefs of, oh, if you're having a hard time or if you're struggling, it's all your fault, or like it's all within your power to make it better. It's true to an extent, and we have to continue to hold multiple things. Opportunities, I would say, are there's so much opportunity for like reclamation of our power, our intuition, to start making small choices that we may not even see build into our dream life this year in 2026, but we'll start to set the new neural pathways and the new foundations for what we are creating. And I think there's also a lot of opportunity for stepping into our true purpose in a sense. And that doesn't necessarily have to mean a job, but as these old systems and even the new systems that we don't fully believe in that are like tech first, for example, as some of them die and gain power, there's more and more need in the world for skills that haven't been traditionally valued in this world, like empathy, deep listening, intuition, like more feminine based skills, especially. So there's a lot of opportunity and a lot of need in the world. Or even like you're talking about, Lindsay, like you want more of a slow life, you want more land, like you want more gardening. Those traditionally wouldn't, in the old paradigm, wouldn't necessarily be seen as like part of your purpose because you may not be making money from them. But like there's so much opportunity for us to reclaim the type of life we want. And in doing so, honestly, like change what's valued and valuable in the world. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. You're speaking my language. I feel like that's the perfect way to end. I definitely would like to link your astrology forecast that you're going to upload as
Yeah.
well. So I'll link that in the show notes.
Anyone who wants to go even into the more granular, like month by month, quarter by quarter details, I'll have that up soon.
Amazing. Can you share where the listeners can find you to book an incredible astrology reading and all of your offers?
Yes, thank you. My website is chelseajewel.com. I do astrology readings, energy healing sessions. I do one-on-one coaching that is like spiritual life coaching, but at this deep kind of soul level. Um, and then I have a new course as well that I'm planning on launching at the beginning of the new year. So anyone who wants to learn astrology for themselves and learn about themselves in the process, this course will be, I think, really cool, really unique, and really helpful for that.
Amazing. Oh, I'm so excited for that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing everything, Chelsea. This has been very illuminating. I took a few notes for my own knowledge over here for next year. So we really appreciate it. Thank you, everyone, for listening, and we will see you next time. Thank you so much for listening to the High Vibe Soul podcast. Your support means the world to me. So if you enjoyed this episode, please rate, review, subscribe, and share with a loved one. Sign up for my newsletter and receive 2 free high vibe meditations straight to your inbox. And for more ways to work with me, click the links in the show notes. I would love to hear from you, so send me a message on my Instagram at the.highvibe.soul, and I'll see you next time.